I've stated it many times in the past, and I'm going to state it again here for the record. I'm not, never have been a fan of Brian Tamaki nor Destiny Church. However, I will say this about the man and his congregation. They're certainly out there. Now, while I'm not a fan, and to be honest, there are probably more in my camp than there are in his, but not a fan, but more of an admirer of what he's doing. Look, I don't agree with how he's doing things, but I do admire the fact that he's the only name related to Christianity in his church that are in the news. Over the Easter weekend, the real message appeared to be lost in the media as the bunny, the road toll, the weather, trading hours, and Tamaki dominated the news cycle. If you need to gauge how the hand-wringers, the conspiracy theorists, the whingers, the woke, the sanctimonious, the self-righteous, the complacent, the smug, the self-satisfied, the condescending, supercilious, patronising, haughty, disdainful, lofty, pompous, snobbish, and the politically correct feel, then the social media is the place where you can read comments and look at pictures filled with half-truths, all of which are meant to arouse envy, provoke anger, or inspire and condemn greed. Can I say, if you want to know people's opinions about Brian Tamaki, then social media, it's the obvious place to go, particularly if you like the rest of the sheep in the news media who disapprove of Tamaki and share the view he's nothing but a terrorist, a money grabber who preys on his congregation's credit cards each Sunday. He's a gang leader, and so it goes on. Yeah, let's not forget that he's opinionated, transphobic, self-entitled, self-proclaimed, arrogant. Have I forgotten everything? Oh yeah, extremist. Not a fan of what or how Tamaki and his followers conduct themselves, and they paint rainbow crossings, stand in opposition to people who are pro-Gaza, or how they make a lot of noise about what's genuinely wrong in this country. Brian Tamaki is in the news, not because he wants to be. I may be wrong about that, but he's the only, and I mean the only church leader in this country to stand against the tide of public opinion and call out those who call evil good and good evil, who are putting darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. I'm sure you've heard that before. So call Tamaki transphobic because he dares to stand up to the LGBTQ plus community in this country because their lifestyle is abhorrent to the God he serves. Compare his actions now to US President Joe Biden, who officially declared March 31st to be Transgender Day of Visibility on the same day that Christians around the world were celebrating Resurrection Sunday. Now, Tamaki stands fearlessly to the veracity of vocal condemnation from many in our country who believe him to be a bigot because he stands in and speaks about the elephant in the room that basically we're too afraid to speak about. Yes, I have admiration for anyone who stands against evil practices which happen in this country, which has changed the culture of what was a God-fearing Christian country. And these people that Tamaki rails against have. Now, not only does Tamaki cop criticism from the secular world, but also from within his own Christian community. Look, I don't agree with Tamaki's methods, but then I ask the question, if Jesus himself were to walk down the main streets of Auckland or Gisborne, what is it that he would do? Remember, we're talking about a man who told us to love one another, love your neighbour as yourself, and yet reacted to the traders and the money changers in the temple who turned the place of worship into, and I quote, a den of thieves, end of quote. You can read the account of in any of the Gospels, but to be fair to Tamaki, even Jesus had his critics, but both are right to be and show a righteous anger at what is wrong. Yep. Brian Tamaki's out there. He's making people uncomfortable. He's grabbing the headlines, but Brian Tamaki may well be a bit self-centered. He may well like the spotlight, but stop and think about whose name is he doing all this in. If you go to church on Sunday, where's the condemnation of society from the pulpit? Where's the message of sin, reconciliation with God, even redemption, forgiveness? And you know, I might even add the word truth. Tell me, if Brian Tamaki makes you feel uncomfortable, if Tamaki makes your pastor uncomfortable, ask yourself why. If he makes us uncomfortable, is it because he's a Christian and acts on behalf of the God that we all serve? Then ask yourself why. Yes, the meek are going to inherit the earth, but, as it has to be a huge but, is the world you want to inherit be filled with spaces at the table because you failed to warn others to change their course of action? If you're not prepared to make a stand against this world, be comfortable in your little pristine church on a Sunday, not even cause a ripple in the pond of society, then I can suggest that you take heed of Jesus. When he said in Matthew 7, verse 21, he says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who's in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out the demons, and in your name perform many miracles? In verse 23, then Jesus says, I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me you go, you evildoers. Once again, I am not for one moment endorsing the methods used by Tamaki and Destiny Church, but I openly endorse the action. Tamaki's in the news. He's often in the news for many reasons, mainly because his actions do grab attention. I don't know if you've noticed, but all his positive works fail to. And I'm talking about how he's embraced the South Auckland community, how his Man Up program has brought down the levels of domestic violence. If you want to look for good rather than sensational, then you'll find it in the Destiny Church. I've never ever met Brian Tamaki, never watched his preaching videos, never ever been to a Destiny Church building, but I do know he is grabbing attention, and by his actions he's highlighting opposition towards what we deep down oppose ourselves. Yes, Tamaki's in the news, Destiny Church is in the news. Let me end with this question. What has your pastor, your church done to express its opposition publicly in order to condemn the culture in which we live? Like Tamaki, does your church, your pastor, your shepherd, answer the question from God found in Psalm 94:16, where he asks, who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who will stand for me against those who practice iniquity? One thing about Tamaki is, he is not silent, and I encourage him to keep putting the questions out there and this may be hard for Christianity in New Zealand to swallow, but Tamaki has a mandate to do so. You can find that in Ezekiel 3:18 and 19, where it says, if I say to the wicked, you shall surely die, and you give him no warning, nor to speak, to warn the wicked from his wicked way, in order to save his life, that wicked person shall die for his iniquity, but his blood I'll require at your hand. But if you warn the wicked, and he does turn from his wickedness or from his wicked way, he shall die for his iniquity, but you'll have delivered your soul. Not a fan of Tamaki, but sometimes, you just have to stand up and know that God has your back.